John Perkins, Confessions of an Economic Hitman. Delve into the world of economic hitmen, EHMs, in John Perkins, Confessions of an Economic Hitman. In this eye-opening account, Perkins shares his own experiences as an M, where his mission was to trap developing nations in a web of debt, essentially enslaving them to U.S. commercial interests. From his unsuspecting beginnings in the Peace Corps to the realization of the damage he was causing, Perkins' story illuminates the global forces manipulating economies and the individuals caught in this web. Readers can anticipate a raw, gripping narrative that exposes the realities of how EHMs operate and the consequences of their actions on nations across the world.
The Invisible Armies. Meet the economic hitmen, EHMs, and CIA-sanctioned jackals, whose clandestine operations are destroying the economies of developing nations. John Perkins, an EHM, shares his experiences of cheating companies out of vast sums of money and overthrowing reluctant political leaders. With sophisticated methods and optimistic forecasts, they secure credit for expensive projects. And when all else fails, the jackals step in, leaving behind a trail of violent coups and assassinations. This shocking exposé reveals how our global economy is manipulated and controlled by powerful elites. Confessions of an Economic Hitman. John Perkins, an economic hitman, shares his experiences as a tool to justify huge international loans that eventually bankrupted countries into becoming dependent on the U.S. John Perkins was an economics graduate from Boston University who joined the Peace Corps to avoid the Vietnam draft. His relative approved of his plan, saying they needed agents who understood the natives. It was only later that Perkins realized that the Peace Corps was a crucial part of his preparation to become an economic hitman. In 1971, Perkins took a job as an economist with Chas T. Main Incorporated, where he was introduced to Claudine Martin, a special consultant. Claudine was there to mold him into an economic hitman. Over time, Perkins learned that his job was to justify huge international loans for massive construction and engineering projects that would benefit U.S. companies, including Bechtel, Halliburton, and Brown and Root. Perkins' work involved two roles: justifying the loans and working methodically to bankrupt the countries that accepted them. The goal was to make the countries dependent on creditors, forcing them to comply with requests for access to oil or military bases. Perkins and his fellow economic hitmen were paid to cheat countries out of billions of dollars, and the job was to encourage world leaders to become part of a vast network that promoted U.S. commercial interests. Perkins confesses that his story must be told because it explains how the world got to where it is today and why we currently face seemingly insurmountable crises. For the first time in history, a nation, the U.S., has the money, power, and ability to change the world. And Perkins' story, as an economic hitman, highlights how this power has been abused to promote corporate interests at the expense of the developed world. Confessions of an EHM. John Perkins, a former economic hitman, reveals his experience working as a chief economist for Main Incorporated, hired by organizations such as USAID and the Asian Development Bank to visit cities and forecast growth in grant areas. During his visits to Indonesia, he heard candid stories from ordinary people who felt exploited by the U.S. Perkins begins to waver in his certainty of purpose, and when he returns to Boston, he finds his mentor Claudine has vanished. He attends meetings with leaders such as the Shah of Iran and Robert McNamara, but he grapples with his role as an EHM. Despite his discomfort, his aggressive growth forecasts earn him a promotion. Perkins shares his story to shed light on the exploitation of developing countries and encourages readers to seize the opportunity to create a better future. The true role of the U.S. in the Iranian Revolution. In this book, the author recalls his experience in Tehran during the Iranian Revolution in 1978. The overthrow of the Shah showed the U.S. had gravely underestimated its true role in the world. Through his teacher Claudine, the author learns about a vast network that promotes U.S. commercial interests, ensnaring world leaders in a web of debt to ensure their loyalty. The Carter administration's attempts to rescue the American hostages failed, leading to Ronald Reagan's presidency and a shift towards using military muscle to maintain the nation's top spot. The Saudi Arabian connection. Perkins, an economic hitman, was tasked with convincing a Saudi official to channel the country's wealth into U.S. engineering and construction firms. In a corrupt scheme to win the trust of Prince W., Perkins arranged for women to have sex with him. Ultimately, corrupt practices like this helped establish Saudi Arabia as a major player in the world economy and enriched the U.S. coffers. Confessions of an Economic Hitman. In Confessions of an Economic Hitman, John Perkins reveals his involvement in a highly controversial and secretive job as an economic hitman (EHM) for corporations and government agencies in the 1970s. However, guilt and disgust led him to quit and start advocating for the environment and indigenous people. Perkins details his dealings in Iraq, Kuwait, and Saudi Arabia, where he and other EHMs would pervert economic forecasts and offer lucrative deals to acquire political influence. His book presents a disturbing picture of a world that is ruled by the corporatocracy, a system that promotes economic growth at all costs. Perkins' book is a wake-up call for individuals and governments to examine closely the policies and practices that lead to the exploitation of countries and their people. In the end, Perkins calls for people to take action and fight against this monstrous machine. Your role in creating a better world. The book emphasizes that individuals must take an active role to prevent the relentless march towards global empire. This can be achieved by questioning the deeper forces that control most of our media, reducing our consumption of oil and initiating a revolution within our educational system. It is crucial to speak frankly about the issues that need to be addressed and to get others involved. The book urges individuals to make their own confession and come clean about who they are and what they have done. This will help us to act and think for ourselves and make a paradigm shift towards a better world. The book stresses how beliefs and misconceptions about economic development contribute to the problem, but it is possible to change the economic paradigm with the help of like-minded individuals. The book concludes by asking readers to consider their own role in creating a better world and to become agents of change by teaching others how to initiate such changes.
In Confessions of an Economic Hitman, John Perkins sheds light on the clandestine activities and ruthless tactics of EHMs in manipulating economies and controlling nations. As he shares his own transformation and eventual resignation from this life, Perkins urges readers to understand the darker side of international relations, question the information they consume, and take action for a more equitable global society. Perkins' extraordinary journey offers a powerful reminder of the importance of recognizing the true extent of the corporatocracy's influence, and the urgent need for individuals to challenge this status quo in order to build a better world for future generations.